Hello tanks and tankettes, and welcome to a viewer replay and a slightly buggy countdown. Now this is, I'm going to have to say it, aren't I? This is Bush Molester. Yes, I'm sure that entirely relates to his love of scout tanks and is in no way intended as some kind of double entendre or innuendo. In your endo. But of course, you know, my experience is on the internet that nobody is ever smutty or dirty-minded or anything like that. So I'm just going to assume it's entirely the former and nothing to do with the latter. Because, you know, the internet's such a clean living place. There's barely any filth there at all. Although that might just be that I'm not visiting the right websites. I don't know. Anyway, moving swiftly on. This matchmaking is frankly incredible. Now, it's maybe even a little bit more incredible because he's platooned up with that Panther II. This could have gone very badly for the Panther II, but they've both really lucked out. There's 3 tier 8s per team, one of which is an artillery. So, effectively, that means Bush Molester can play as a medium tank. His gun is more than good enough. In fact, his gun is better than a lot of the tier 7 mediums. So this is incredibly good matchmaking. However, against them, they've also got an M41 Walker Bulldog platoon, and actually, that platoon also has the tier 8 Arty in with it, so that's going to be something for the rest of his team to be wary about. Bush Molester maybe doesn't have to worry about that quite so much now, but if he starts getting spotted by the Bulldogs, who just seem to be, well, at least one of them spotting the middle, and that's what Bush Molester's doing a bit of at the moment as well. But yeah, you get that guy spotting you, and you'll probably get an artillery shell coming down your head very soon afterwards. Now, there's a big clump of his allies on the 1-2 line, and it initially looks like there's not a lot of enemy opposition here. And there isn't that much. Oh, and there's the enemy Walker Bulldog, or one of them. So this, in theory, should be a fairly easy walk down the line, because of the enemy tanks, there's they have a numbers disadvantage. And there we go, there's a Walker Bulldog down, so that's another disadvantage for the enemy team. They just lost half of that very potent Walker Bulldog platoon. Which is, you know, for the Walker Bulldogs as well, this was incredible matchmaking. So that guy to get knocked out, for him to get knocked out so early, he had to be a little bit mad about that. But it's not really going to go according to plan, though. There are other machines down there, and one of them in particular is going to make a very big impact indeed. Meanwhile, Bush relocates to the opposite side, and you're going to see him do a lot of that in this game, using that mobility to relocate and to, at times, come at people from unexpected directions. And I will say, I think he just looked at the matchmaking and thought, you know what, I'm going to play this like a medium tank. Because to just sit in a bush and spot would be to really waste the potential of this gun in this matchmaking. This is a really nice gun. I wish some of my tier 7 mediums had guns as good as this. However, it's not all peaches and cream, of course, because you have not a lot of armor, you've got less hit points than the tier 7 mediums, and of course worse matchmaking than tier 7 mediums as well. But still, it's the fact that it gets worse matchmaking, that's why it has a better gun. And of course, being Chinese, no gun depression. And it probably just goes on fire if you look at it funny as well, because again, it's Chinese. So he's looking to do some damage on the hill, give some support to that side, and his team seem to have the upper hand over there. On the 1-2 line, they lost a lot of tanks, but they've still got some tanks alive and kicking and pushing down, including that IS, who's looking relatively healthy. Now there's one of the enemy tanks that probably did do a lot of damage, but that was a very nice shot, so he's not going to be troubling anyone anymore. Eyes back to the hill, meanwhile. That T-29 is in a very nicely hull down position. If Bush's team's artillery isn't picking on that guy, he's in a really strong position, because unless they just push forward and try and overwhelm him, they really can't do a lot to hurt him from where they are. Bush, meanwhile, himself spots that AT-15A, loads up some premium shells, which I'm not entirely convinced were necessary, but maybe just because it's an AT-15A and he wanted to have a better chance. The sidearm on those things is okay, but the regular pen on this gun is, what, 180? 181, something like that? Still more than enough for an AT-15A at that angle, but I guess he was just taking no chances. And it's not like he spends this entire game spamming APCR, but there are times, even if I get to point it out later on, there are times when he fires it unnecessarily, and maybe it's just to give that guarantee of getting, or not getting, rather, wonky bounces. But sometimes with APCR, you're going to get wonky bounces that you wouldn't get with AP because of the reduced normalization. So it's one of these 6 of one and half a dozen of the other things. Now that shot right there, that might have been one of them, in fact. It might just have been, it would have bounced either way, but it might have been the extra normalization of an AP shell would have been enough to pen that, which, it's a tier 6 medium tank. It doesn't have a lot of armor, but it was purely hitting it at a wonky angle that made that APCR shell bounce off. Now artillery just nuked the WZ-111, so enemy RT seems to be focused on the hill right now, and because they're kind of peeking at each other over the terrain, there's not really a lot he can do up there, so he rapidly decides he's going to come back down again, and this time relocates to try and get some side shots. Now he knows he's not going to get spotted by the AT-15A. The Skoda might spot him, and hello, that was a railroad tanker thing. What would you call that? A container! One of those things that just randomly exploded, so somebody must have shot that from far away. Bush gets a kill on the low health KV-85, and this is some very nice opportunities to shoot these 2 remaining heavies. They're not particularly well armoured ones, at least in the hull. KV-29, yes, I've just invented a new tank, by the way. That obviously will be a problem hull down, but if you can get shots on the side or even the front armour with this gun, it should pen no problem. And that was very unlucky. However, he gets spotted by, oh, that's that remaining Walker Bulldog. Takes hit from the T-29. He's also about to lose his Panther II ally. Can he get away before he takes more damage? Well, the Bulldog hits him, and that had to have been the KV-85. So, he's gone from full health to less than a quarter health in very short order. This complicates matters. The Bulldog is down, however, and that distraction provided at least one tank of his allies to try and push up on the hill. However, the T-29 has not followed. He's abandoned that position. Not sure why. Bush Molester, meanwhile, I keep wanting to say Bushmaster. I'm struggling very hard not to. He's spotted an opportunity to do the classic light tank thing of dashing for enemy artillery. There's a big wide open hole here. We know where enemy artillery was. He was spotted. But first, he actually gets eyes on, well, both the Jagdpanther and the OI, who is a one-shot. Now, he initially tries for the rear armour. Silly Bush Molester. You don't shoot the rear armour on an OI, it's just as thick as the frontal armour. Side armour, however, that'll do. Now, the shot that unmasks the M40-43 is unfortunately the same shot that kills the T-29. Bush Molester is now alone, apart from allied artillery. This is a bit of a problem. But less of a problem than you might think, given the matchmaking. This is where this is going to come in handy. This is where he's going to end up really needing that very, very big advantage that the matchmaker gave him in order to try and pull this back from being a loss. Because the enemy team has taken pretty heavy casualties. This is not done by any means. Yes, he's low health, but he's got a camo bonus, he's got a mobility advantage, and he's got a really nice gun. And he's also still got an artillery ally left alive who does actually do some damage to that Jagdpanther. Jagdtiger. Now he very carefully double bushes before he actually takes that shot, and then waiting for the guy to turn around the other way, comes in from behind, and hello, I guess you forgot to bring a turret to the party. Hey, well, okay then. Now, at least one of those shots into the rear was APCR, but he queued up an AP shell to go after, so again, not exactly spamming the ammo, but he did waste one or two. This Jagdtiger 8.8, meanwhile, is really doing the only thing he can do, which is basically the equivalent of bleeding on somebody's shoes after you've been shot. There really wasn't a lot else he could do, so he backed into Bush Molester. I almost did it again there. For a whole 27 damage. So, yeah. Bush Molester's shoes are now thoroughly bled on. Those stains are going to take forever to come out. At this point, the T-43 and the T-29, well, they killed artillery, And we can also now see exactly where they are. They're trying to cap. And I think it's around about this stage in the chat that they start crowing about victory, about having won. Maybe a little prematurely, as we shall see. Now the KV-85 was an easy one-shot. Bush Molester was able to come out from an unexpected angle. However, it's cost him time-wise. There are 15 seconds left on the clock before the enemy do actually win this. He's not going to have a lot of time to reset here. Having taken that slightly circuitous route to come out at an unexpected angle for the KV-85 could have been costly. However, he aimed very carefully. He's got the APCR loaded for that extra bit of guaranteed pen, and he gets the reset on the T-29, who's now left as a one-shot. But the enemy team are still very close to winning. So, in theory, he needs to reset the T-43. However, he can only see the T-29, so he goes for that. And you might think, well, the T-43's got the cap points. Yes, but now there's only one tank capping. So it still gave him more time. If that's the shot you've got, then that's the shot you take. He then is able to reset the T-43, and that, by the way, is his Radley-Walters medal. And at this point, he's got this guy. This guy's not coming for him. This guy is still trying to cap. And what now follows is the most leisurely final kill I have ever seen anybody do. Bush Molester's got loads of time left, comparatively. We're in the last 3.5 minutes of the battle. The T-43 needs at least, what is it, a minute 20 seconds to cap. He can easily be outspotted by Bush Molester. And Bush Molester, like I said earlier, he's just going to use this mobility and he's just going to work this guy over. And this guy doesn't stand a chance. He's not even trying, though. He's just huddled in the cap. He's still convinced he needs to cap. He might have had a chance if he'd come for Bush Molester, but instead he is actually making this all the easier. He's just going to sit there and make himself a nice, obvious target. Now we're down to less than 3 minutes now, and again Bush Molester is going to relocate. The T-43 is probably going to expect him to go onto the 1-2 line, use that bush cover there, spot him, snipe him, whatever. And the reason I know that the T-43 expected that is going to become rapidly apparent. And instead, Bush Molester is working up to the cap, working up very close to the cap, under the cover of this rock. And he actually spotted the T-43 without getting spotted himself. So, as we can see, T-43 taking cover behind the T-29 wreck, looking completely the wrong direction, and that was, like I said, the most leisurely last kill I have ever seen anybody take. So that was an ace mastery, unsurprisingly. Radley-Walters, a defender and a top gun, and a bunch of the more minor ribbons and medals as well. And as you can see, well, as you're going to see in a second, damage-wise, yeah. Now, actually, artillery just beat him on damage. His own team's artillery, 4,321. Bush Molester had just under that with 4,303, but of course he had 9 kills. Between them, they did more than the rest of the team combined easily. So he needed that matchmaking advantage. He really, really did. And as you can see from this screen, I mean, I think the standout figure here is that although, you know, 1,100 spotting assistance is all right, compared to the actual damage that he did, that he had to do, it really pales in comparison. So, yeah, this is one of those times when, yeah, okay, you're in a scout tank, but it's a scout tank of such a nature, and the matchmaking was of such a nature that scouting as a thing just went out the window, and it was all about trying to do as much damage as he could instead, because the rest of his team was struggling a bit, clearly. So hopefully you have enjoyed this bit of WZ-131 action, and if you have, you can hit the like button, you can leave any comments about it below, you can sub if you aren't already, and as always, stay tuned for more.